And
it's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
been bad.
Anyway, yeah. Well, fingers crossed that the technology lasts. We're live. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, people of LinkedIn. Good morning, YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, good morning, Calypso.
Hi, thanks for having me.
We made it. We made it just about after a few technical glitches, literally just as we were about to go live. Yeah, and I think between my technical issues on my end and you on a boat, so fingers crossed the Wi-Fi holds up for us.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. As long as another boat doesn't go by, we'll be fine.
Okay, perfect. Calypso, how's you? And good morning. If you're joining us live, please do say good morning in the chat on this very cold morning. We were just saying, you know, obviously you're on a boat. I've just been out for a walk. It was cold. I was like, hood up, earmuffs on. Yeah, it's very cold. So please do say, say good morning in the chat. Let us know how your week has been. Calypso, how's your week been?
I've been having tech dramas. I mean, they had the AWS outage, didn't they? So then nothing worked.
Yeah.
All websites went down. Then I've had dramas with Facebook for sort of 2 days. I mean, honestly, it makes you lose the will to live sometimes. But we're there. It's Friday, and I'm really excited to be chatting to you.
It's Friday. Honestly, Friday could not come soon enough this week. My week, I've had lots of events, you know, obviously like we're still in like Black History Month, and this year I seem to have just had a plethora, and I'm not complaining, of invites to events, and many of which I couldn't even make, but I've had a week full of events and all kinds of things, which has been great, but it's incredibly tiring.
Oh, what's been the highlight? Which has been the best event?
Do you know? I feel as though if anybody's listening now that I came to say event, but because it's fresh in my mind, yesterday's event was just incredible. It was about so it was by an organization called Dial Global, and it's really talking to the leaders of organization and understanding their levels of commitment still to this work. And so just incredibly inspiring. Really, really inspiring, and also still some quite tricky and difficult conversations, you know, in terms of the state of the world, and you know, how do we still do this work in this environment, and how do you manage organizations where you've got people with such different perspectives, you know, but you, at the end of the day, you've got to lead everyone, and you've got to sort of be able to bring everybody together in kind of a sort of safe and respectful environment. So yeah, it was really good. Yeah. That was my highlight. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was. And but I tell you what, though, when I was thinking about this conversation, you know, we're going to be talking about young people, you know, young talent in and out of organizations, but probably really focusing just on unleashing the potential of young people and what that looks like. And I thought, how nice to compared to some of the heavy conversations that I often have on here. I thought I'm really looking forward to just something a little bit lighter this Friday
let's
morning.
Keep this light and fun. It's Friday morning, and it's been a week of awful tech.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so let's finish the week better than we started with Amazon Web Services. So right, so Calypso, good morning. Thank you so much for joining me. And so I've got a little bit of a tradition that I've started on here where I usually get ChatGPT to write my guest's introduction, right? But today I got Claude, because I sort of switched between Claude and ChatGPT. They're like my two additional team members.
Yeah, and Claude's a bit more emotional.
Do you think so?
Yeah. I get a better vibe from Claude.
Yeah, he's more sort of like more conversational, you know, kind of. Yeah, I think he's got more. Yeah, he's got more emotion. Got more emotional intelligence. I think Claude has got. Yeah. Anyway, so here's what Claude says. So Claude says, joining me today is Calypso Rose, co-founder of Offscript Generation. Calypso became an accidental entrepreneur at 22 when her kitchen table handbag business, Clippy Kit, became Selfridge's best-selling Christmas item, proving you don't need a traditional career path to succeed. Interestingly, this is something I didn't know because we didn't discuss this. 30 London schools used her bags to spark real conversations with teenagers about everything from knife crime to bullying. and she's been connecting with young people about their futures ever since. After building and selling multiple businesses over 2 decades without ever working in a corporate, she's now tackling education's biggest failures, schools, still preparing young people for careers that don't exist. That's why she launched Offscript, to teach entrepreneurship as a life skill and bring parents and young people together to navigate a world where Gen Z might have 15 different careers. Their summit launches in January, sponsored by the New York Times. Welcome, Calypso. How did so rate out of 10? Because that's what. How do you rate Claude's introduction there?
Yeah, Claude did pretty well. I recently exited my last business, which was actually an experience company. So I exited that about 6 months ago. So it missed that bit out, but otherwise spot on. Thanks,
amazing.
Claude.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, really interesting. And the Clippy kit and the conversations that sparked is really interesting. Is that kind of what got you into sort of thinking about young people? What was the link between kind of your entrepreneurial journey, young people?
Well, so the bag, it was a bag and it had pockets and you put all your own photos in it. It was before Facebook and Instagram. It was like Instagram on your handbag. And we did, so we and it was really popular with teenagers. I mean, I sold it across the world. It kind of went viral. And it was really popular with teenagers. So I wanted to, as I spoke in schools a lot about entrepreneurship, because I was young and relatable at that time. We got all these
still young and relatable.
Thank you. We got all these bags into London schools, and I talked about entrepreneurship in the schools, and then they also customized the bags with something that was worrying them. And at that time, there was a lot still. They were using the bags as conversation pieces between themselves, and then they also used the bags to talk to the younger classes. So it was kind of an interesting way to engage and a bit different over a handbag, which is bizarre, but it really worked. And we ended up with a big exhibition at City Hall.
Amazing.
It was really rewarding. I mean, it was sort of the end of the business at that point, but I loved doing it and I loved the difference it made to these kids. And I still, like maybe 5 or 6 years after that, I was still getting messages from some of the kids that have been involved in it and had sort of followed me as an entrepreneur. So you just don't realize what a difference you can make by doing something really small.
Yeah. What I love about it as well, as an example, and we're going to delve into this, but, you sort of said it was like before, I guess, like before the real spread of like, the Instagram in particular, because I guess that very much is that like visual, digital kind of space, where people connect over imagery almost, but almost what you were doing was like an analog version of that almost, right, with the bags, which I love. And I still, there's a part of me, maybe like the Luddite in me, is like, bring it back,
it's back. All coming back. It's all coming back. Gen Z are loving the cameras and all the old tech and the camcorders and Polaroids, and that's it's a thing.
Polaroids. I'm doing an event very soon. There will be Polaroids. There will be Polaroids. I want, for sure. Absolutely. I love
just get another mortgage out to record the film.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, does that mean that we're going to be getting Kodak back, and are we going to be getting, Boots processing film? I don't know whether it's going to go that far. But it's interesting, isn't it, how these things at retro, right? How these things come back around. Maybe, I need a T-shirt with that on it that just says retro.
Yeah, well, you just get overwhelmed by all the noise, don't you? So it's just nice to be able to go out without your phone, go out with a real camera, and just not be distracted all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, let's start with one of the things that you mentioned when we first spoke was this statistic about 12% of young people wanting to be an accountant. I mean, I am an accountant, but I'm not offended at all by the stereotype of accountants. But what if it, more than 1 in 10? Why do you think? So there is this piece about why do you think that is still happening? Why do you think schools, especially given that careers like accountants, I mean, AIs are taking those jobs like nobody's business, right? So why do you think schools are still pushing those kinds of like linear traditional
well, I think it's schools, and
paths.
it's, isn't it, because we're in such a state of flux at the moment, and it's all moving so quickly. And 12%, I mean, I was really shocked by that statistic. And schools, they're such big organizations, haven't they? They haven't caught up. And schools don't reward they don't reward kind of failure and entrepreneurship and trying. They just judge on exam results. And it just needs to move forward. But they're such big organizations, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It is.
And so I think that's what we saw with this problem, was that all these young people are being said, be a doctor, be a nurse, and what we wanted to do with Offscript was kind of expand their horizons, expand their minds to all the different careers that they could do. I mean, I was talking to one person, and she interviews thousands of young people for jobs, and she said they don't understand what a project manager could be. A project manager for worldwide wrestling, or could be a project manager for within a small business. So it's important
to look more broadly.
Know what's out.
I mean, you're right that there are these very narrow sort of almost like specialisms that have become sort of almost like seen as great careers. And it's not to say that they're not great careers, right? But you're right, there is so much more. And do you know what, it's something that you said there, even about a role like, for example, a project manager. There are lots of roles that I didn't realize really until I'd gotten into corporate, and probably not even when I was in corporate. Obviously when I was in corporate I trained with EY, but actually after I'd left EY, so left practice and was then in corporate doing things like programs and projects and stuff, there were loads of jobs that I came to see that I'd never heard of before. Do you know what I mean? It's like there is something about the view that's given in kind of like schools and maybe, I think you're right, your point about maybe the expectations of parents as well, particularly the expectations of migrant parents. Actually, I'll come on to that in a little bit, but often it is just those narrow professions that we've all heard of. We don't realize that there is these roles like business analyst or process expert or data scientist, or all of these new careers now as well. But the thing about accountant, it's one of the I don't know whether you've ever heard this term, but you probably you'll have come across the concept of it. But I know somebody who calls he has a term which is the migrant four, as in the only four qualifications that you're allowed to have if you're from certain cultures, and that is lawyer, engineer, accountant, or doctor. And it's almost like, especially from certain cultures, it's like the parents are like, yeah, you can be one of those, and if you're not, nothing else exists outside of those, right?
I was speaking to a school in Kent, and she said that 60% of the parents all own their own businesses. They've all got small businesses. There's a lot of small businesses in Kent, but the kids are still aren't connecting the dots between their parents having a business and them starting their own business, which I thought was quite that's and I remember when I was at school, entrepreneurship wasn't an option. You were never even told that was something you could go and do. And then I speak to schools now, and it's the same. They're not said that actually you could try and start your own business. And I really believe that you could have a very small amount of money, £500,000, try starting your own business, and you'll learn so much about yourself. In 3 months of trying to get something off the ground, you'll learn more about yourself than you would maybe a year at uni, or it's just such an important life skill.
Is it something to do with because one the sorts of people sort of talk about the reading, right, the 3 R's, which obviously they're not actually R's, the reading, writing and arithmetic, but is there something about almost like the education system as it is currently really is geared towards it is actually geared towards professional it's geared towards knowledge work predominantly. I know that, there are still vocational qualifications and all that, but it is still heavily geared towards, knowledge work, written work, etc. Do you know what I mean? Is maybe that's part of the issue.
And the path, there's just this set path that's been ingrained. And I was talking to someone the other day about BTECs, and his daughter had done a BTEC and got a first, and then ended up going to Oxford. And I didn't even know. I just didn't even know that. You kind of assume certain things about BTECs when actually now I think they're going to be really valuable going forward. In this world of AI, actually having hands-on skills and doing something that you really engrossed in, and more project work. I think is fantastic. Maybe they need a rebrand.
Yeah, for sure. And there is some, whenever we're talking about young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha now, which are, so for anybody that doesn't understand the gens, what Gen Z and who is in Gen Z and Gen Alpha in particular now, which is coming to, just explain that really quickly in terms of, I'm going to say ages, but obviously it's moving all the time.
Gosh, now you're asking me. Gen Z is...
Does Gen Z cut off at, I think the oldest is like 1997 born, I think is right. And then are they about like, I want to say they're 18 or 19 or something?
18, I think they're 18
to like 20, to like 28, 29. Yeah, it's like that 10 years. So Gen Alpha
81.
now are like the 16 and 17-year-olds that are now potentially going to be coming into the workforce, certainly coming into organizations for work experience potentially. So
I mean, I'd like to know if anyone's out there who's got how many work experience people they have in their offices. It's just so difficult to get. And back in, when I was 14, 15, I had so much work experience, and I was and I Saturday jobs, and I probably had 15 different jobs as a teenager, and I learned so much, and they just doesn't really seem to exist like it did.
It's hard. When I was at school, I remember this. I mean, so when I was at school, first of all, the teachers used to help you get work experience, which I think that's a massive, and I know that there's a lot of pressure on teachers, but I just think that schools, my view is schools should be collaborating with organizations, big and small, charity, all sectors, to get young people work experience. Because when you leave it to parents, not all parents have got those connections, so it then, there's then only a few that can actually get access to work experience. I did work experience at a firm of accountants.
Excellent. I think, you've I wish I'd been better at doing all my numbers with my first business, like just being able to nail that cash flow when you're 16, 17 is absolutely vital.
I'm still not great
with life skills
my own numbers,
and organizing your house or
and also, back to your point around the breadth, though, I think there is something about, the value, for example, of a work experience person going to work with a founder of a business would be incredible, right? In terms of that as an option as well. There is
even now since COVID, so it's so hybrid. You don't really feel like you're giving the work experience a proper shot if you've got them sitting in your living room.
Or just jumping onto a Zoom call. I know. That leads us into this next question, just about the way that we work now, and I was talking to somebody about this. Actually, even for example, so I started life as an auditor, and we'd all go out to the client, and you'd all be sat in a room, etc. That's totally different now, like in terms of how it's done. Because even if the audit team, if some of them are working from home, when they go into the client, oftentimes all of the clients are at home. So it's the world of work is so different. But we have these assumptions, don't we, about young people not being able to hold a conversation and being stuck on their phones and being so reliant. Yeah, exactly. I think that
it's like people are accusing young people of being stuck on their phones while they're sort of staring at their phone.
Yeah. While the young people are stuck on their phone, the adults are stuck on their phone. Everyone's just stuck on their phone.
Would you get off your phone?
Yeah. And what I mean, but the reality is, and I'm sure you see this with the young people that you work with, and it almost goes back to Clippy Kit, right? Young people can hold conversations and they can start businesses, just maybe just talk about that in terms of, do we not recognize that young people actually do have these skills? Do you think there is an issue about this stereotyping of young people and the interpersonal skills that they've got?
I mean, yeah, communication has evolved very quickly.
Yeah.
And young people, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they're fluent in short form storytelling. They're fluent in personal brand building, audience building, community building. And it's kind of, we're still there. I'm still there going, I took my finger off the voice note at the wrong time, So they've got these amazing 21st century business skills.
Yeah.
And I suppose it just comes down to a lot of being able to listen to what they're saying, and not lecturing and not assuming. I mean, I learned so much from my 9-year-old when I actually stop and listen to him.
Yeah, that the way that you described it there in terms of short form storytelling, I've never heard anybody sort of like put it that succinctly, but you're absolutely right. That is what they are like. I say as though they're like a homogenous group, but typically those sorts of skills, because of because of, for example, being on social media and or consuming that content, makes them quite fluent in that. But it is a real skill, and the whole community building, as you say, and the personal brand building. I was listening to something. I was watching something on YouTube, and it was about the luxury fashion industry, which we know has gone through a really sort of turbulent time, and they were advertising for somebody to come in to try to teach their staff how to vlog, as in to teach their staff to kind of create these online kind of, and then we're paying like 6 figures for this.
I mean,
I'm like,
goodness.
Like kids do this with their eyes closed.
Yeah, they just needed to get the people that probably just joined the company to, and that's where we get into the reverse mentoring.
Exactly. Yeah.
And they, if they teach, they can teach people. It gives everyone a sense of purpose.
Yeah. Let's talk about that then. The reverse mentoring piece. The benefits of that, and what can happen when older folks start to listen to the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas.
Well, I've read about companies doing it. I'd be interested to know which companies are actually doing it, or if they just say they're doing it. But it's just a really good way for two parties to communicate. Because like you're in work a long time, you probably see your boss more than you see your husband. So things don't, everything falls apart when people don't communicate and everyone just assumes what the other is thinking. So I think reverse mentoring done properly is really important. And as everyone's working, as most companies are very hybrid, it's got to be done intentionally, because young people aren't learning by osmosis, because they're not just hanging out in the office. So there has to be time put aside to work together.
Yeah, it has to be quite formalized, almost quite there has to be like an intention about it, I think is the point. Good morning, Alicia. I was wondering then whether we were actually connected, because we had some technical glitches at the start, so we started a little bit late. Good morning, Alicia. Though intergenerational collaboration, that's a great term, Alicia. Really great term. The whole intergenerational stuff, and I mean, for me, that even just from a societal perspective is so important. That's for another LinkedIn. On the reverse mentoring, so I'll put my 2 pennies in based on what I've seen in organizations. It can work really well when it's done really well, and when when the leaders are really invested in it, and when they see the benefit of it, they see that they are actually learning from this young person rather than, or somebody with a different lived experience, because that's how it's sometimes used as well in organizations. So you might have the senior leadership team being reverse mentored by, somebody from some other group, somebody with a disability or somebody with LGBTQ plus or, whatever it be. So it can work well, but it can sometimes be a tick box. That's the danger. So it can be a little bit performative. It actually started, I want to say it started with this whole thing of like, it started with the concept of like youth boards and shadow boards actually in the luxury fashion industry, which is interesting. I'm going to say it started either with Prada or Gucci, or it could have been LVMH, but I'm going to say it was either Gucci or Prada is actually where the concept started of having like a youth board to bring in like, different perspectives and kind of make sure that the more senior board was actually in tune with what was happening in terms of like the latest fashions, which is quite interesting. So the concept of bringing in younger perspectives has been there for a while. I have to put my glasses on. Good morning, Freddie. Super insightful session. I have to get to at 9 a.m. Well, go on. We don't want you to be late. Thank you. And Alicia, just coming back on your point as well, we have to create the opportunities and space to gain a real value. Absolutely. And I think that's why it has to be very intentional and people being very clear about it. So I think where it's done really well, for example, is the senior individuals who are being mentored. They need to kind of like understand they need to understand they're not there to like teach the kids a lesson. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. They're there to listen, not lecture.
Yeah. Listen, not lecture. I love that. Gosh, you've got some sound bites, Calypso. Oh. Some great sound bites. Tell us about Offscript, right? And I know some people are dashing to their 9 a.m. So I want to get Offscript in first. Tell us about why you created it and your vision of kind of like bringing parents and young people together.
Well, I've always created businesses that I'm really passionate about at the time. Yeah. And I've always talked in schools about entrepreneurship. And so I think everything I've done over the years has kind of culminated to co-founding this business where we can talk about the future of work and entrepreneurship as a life skill. And we've got a big summit in January, at the end of January, with 35 speakers and workshops. And it's really, I want it to be a place where parents and their children and teachers and young people come together and they have this conversation together. It's not this top down, you will go to university, you will do this because this is what you need to do. It's a conversation that we can start. So that's the beginning of the Offscript generation. And then we've got lots of ideas that we're bringing together as well. So it's not just summits, but it's going to be an all-round conversation. And I'm really excited. I think entrepreneurship is going to be really important going forward. More young people are going to have portfolio careers. And we need to explain to parents and that this is going to be the norm.
Yeah.
They're not listening about being lost and being indecisive. This is skill building as you go along.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, and especially, and not just in the world of AI. I mean, obviously AI has disrupted a lot in terms of the world of work and business and opportunities, but it has opened the door to new opportunities. But even before AI, one of the things you talked about, short form storytelling, community building a brand. I want to say I heard a report a couple of weeks ago that for the first time, so recently, advertising with kind of like influencers and that sort of space has now overtaken traditional media advertising, right? The world is different. The world is absolutely different. And I think there was a report that I want to say that maybe YouTube have done, perhaps not surprisingly, that have talked about, the fact that the government and schools, for example, need to recognize these are valid careers.
We've got YouTube. We've got Max Fosh speaking, YouTuber. He's got 4 million followers, and it's a valuable career. And having that personal brand where then you can create your own products, or you can spread your message, positive messages. It's all just so important.
Exactly.
And it just needs to be validated, really, as a way forward.
what I love about Offscript as well, I think especially, you know, there's a lot in the media at the moment about the inadequacies of things like SEND, you know, so the special educational needs provisions, and also support for children that need, for example, children, young people that need diagnosis around neurodifference and neurodivergence. And, you know, we know that there's a link between neurodifference and entrepreneurship, right? So I feel like Offscript has kind of almost like come at the perfect time. I think if you've got a child in school who is like, you know, bored, struggling, thinking this isn't for me, like get them to Offscript, because you might just find that they find their tribe, you know.
Find their tribe, have a chat with them. I think they say that a third of entrepreneurs are dyslexic.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we're just going to need more dyslexic thinkers to
absolutely.
Otherwise, we're all just getting our answers off ChatGPT, and we're all just going to be homogenized.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get off ChatGPT. ChatGPT is like the new social media. It's like, get off ChatGPT. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So what are your so obviously you've got the Offscript and the summit. What are some of the other things around it that you're developing in terms of like support for entrepreneurship and for sort of like promoting it as a valid path for young people?
Well, and the thing, I need to talk about that in our next LinkedIn Live, because I'd like to get a little bit further down the line.
Okay. There will be a part 2. There will absolutely be a part 2. And then linking it into, and this is something that we talked about, and I know you're not from a corporate background, but I know that in some corporates, because I've actually delivered some training to what are sometimes called intrapreneurs, right? So this is individuals. I mean, the reality is, we can all be creative, right? We all have that gene with us to want to create something, whether it's a business or not. It could just be a new solution to a problem, like to a work problem. That is still creativity.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around how, for example, if we are bringing young people into organizations, how we can make sure that they actually do fulfill their potential, you know, within organizations? How do we like just maybe give them the space, you know, to be creative, to be innovative, just like based on your experience?
I think I wonder how many, what policies companies have to allow them to have side hustles, and to make that clear when they join the company that this is what you're allowed to do. You are allowed to have a side hustle, or if they just try and keep them in their lane. But the entrepreneurial mindset is so important. You know, you become a problem solver, testing and failing and trying again and running experiments and seeing what works. So I think what I'd love, if I was going to work in a corporate, I was thinking what my ideal job would be like head of ideas and experiments. That would be my department within the business. And then maybe you could bring in different people from the organization for a week to help you with that department.
I love that. Head of ideas and experiments. I'm sure Google you know,
I'm sure they've got that.
The random titles.
And Stephen Bartlett.
Of course. I love what you said there in terms of almost like having a policy around side hustles. I know that many organizations I know have policies around things like you know, giving people time off for learning, like for self-learning, self-development, for charitable and or giving back. So some companies have a policy where it's like, you know, you can have a day a quarter to literally just, you know, go and do, or they arrange it. You know, I know Alicia said about intergenerational collaboration. So some organizations will be like, you know, we're going to go and, you know, plant a community garden this week, or we're going to do something else. So I love that. Something I heard yesterday, actually, at that event, there was an incredible CEO called Andrew Denton from Alpha Financial Services, and, you know, I know that he won't mind me saying, a real activist CEO, which I really loved. One of the ideas he talked about, which I thought was great, and I think really could work well for not only just Gen Zers, but anybody. He talked about giving colleagues and employees the opportunity to blog, like creating a platform where they can blog, you know, just like getting their ideas and their experiences out. It's a really good way of like, you know, connecting people, but also, you know, to your point of just like being creative. You talked about the fact that young people are very good at like building that brand. So let them do that. Like let them be those advocates, right?
And let them be the advocate for your brand. If you've got the right company culture, you've got a workforce of 50 people, or who can all talk about your brand, create interesting content, and be the voice. And then that's just going to help you get more talent and grow. But you just got to make sure the culture's there, otherwise it could be a disaster.
Well, I'm sure that there are some CEOs probably listening to this thinking, what? Like we're going to let some like Gen Alpha and Gen Zers loose on on social media talking about the company, etc. But it's a potentially a really good idea. Good morning, Louisa. Great session, loving the insights. Hopefully you find it useful. Let me know, Louisa, if there's anything that you're specifically trying in your organization. The other thing you said, Calypso, about when people join, one thing that I know good companies do very well, and good CEOs actually do really well, is when people join, like I would say, like in their first 30 days, that's when you get ideas out of them. So in their first 30 days, you're like, what have you seen? What would we be doing? What should we be doing differently? And so
before
I think
it all just sort of becomes wallpaper, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Before they go native. Before they just start to accept, oh, this is the way it's done around here. So, if you are hiring young talent, and anybody that comes into the organization new, at the end of that first 30 days, or let them know, when they join, at the end of your 30 days, we're going to have a session. Maybe it's like a listening session with some of the leaders. They're going to come in, they're going to hear your ideas. That would be a great way to
sounds terrifying.
Well,
30 days.
It lets people feel that they're heard, as soon as they come in, if they're being asked what their opinions are, and what should be done differently. But some leaders might be a little bit scared of that one, but I think it's a really good idea. And it sends, especially if that sort of thing is going on constantly as an organization, it sends a message that we are interested in the opinions of people. We value the ideas, etc., that people can bring to the table, which is what it's all about.
Some of the ideas are also actioned. It's nothing more disparaging than giving all these ideas and then they just get shoved in a drawer and never to be spoken about again.
It can't
or I've worked with some people who you give your ideas and you've been asked to give your ideas and they literally cut you down with a look. Right, well, I'm not going to give you any ideas again.
You gotta have some like ground rules. Maybe you gotta have some like good facilitation, setting some really good ground rules. I always think there's Russell I would say Bertrand's rules around, things like, there are no silly questions, no silly ideas, and things like that is quite useful. I think for people to think about, definitely. But some really, really good ideas. Do you ever see yourself going into the corporate space, Calypso, or do you think you're an entrepreneur through and through?
I think I'm an entrepreneur through and through. I'm not sure who'd employ me now.
Well, you never know. You might get, I know that we've got a few early careers people on here. You might get some people asking you to come in and talk to them about how they can engage with their young people, etc.
I'd love that.
Yeah, perfect. And then for everyone that's watching, then what is apart from going to Offscript, where can they find out about Offscript, by the way? What's the website for Offscript?
The website's offscriptgen.com.
Offscriptgen.
And offscriptgen.com. And we've also, because it's also launched our Instagram as well. So we've got about 10 followers on there. So if anyone could find us on Instagram at OffscriptGen, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Offscriptgen.com. Amazing. So for anybody that's watching, what is one practical thing they can do differently to support young people, especially, if they are a parent, great, or if they've got young people in their life, maybe they've got nieces and nephews, etc. My daughter's getting on in years now. I say getting on. She's still Gen Z, just about hanging into that Gen Z title. But what is the one thing that we can do to sort of help young people sort of navigate these, their future paths, especially in this crazy kind of AI sort of fast moving world?
Offer a work shadow. be that mentor. You need to be honest about your failures and your pivots. Be honest about your breakdowns and your squiggly work path, because you know, people aren't honest about it enough. They go, oh yeah, actually, you know, I've always done this job, and then they think back and go, oh no, actually we did this and this, and then I had a little breakdown here and we pivoted to there. So I think that's really important. So yeah, just be that mentor, because you know, young people don't listen to their parents. They never have done. They need to have, you know, there needs to be the village. There needs to be other people around that can advise.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, the whole it does take a village thing. It's one of the reasons when I used to go for a few people have probably heard me say this before. I've got 3 female friends that I worked with in my 20s, and we still go for dinners now. We're still like the best of friends. We still go for dinners now. And when my daughter hit about 11, 12, I started bringing her along. You know, so we would go out as the girls for dinner, and I started bringing my daughter along. And then about a month ago, we were due to go out again, and some of my friends' kids are now sort of growing up. You know, one's got a boy who is 15, about to turn 16, my godson Alfie, and a girl who is 12. And then, you know, my other friend's got somebody who's 21. I was like, bring the kids, like bring them along to like listen to adult conversation, you know, we include them in the conversation. They hear us talking about life and work and all of that stuff, you know. I think it's really important that they hear it from other people, not just their parents. You know, they have this network of people. So it's helping them to build social capital, actually, is what it is as well, isn't it?
And also helping them build their network.
Yeah, definitely. And I love what you said. Obviously, offering the work shadowing, really important. It's not easy for everybody to get work experience,
and it's really hard to get. It's really hard to get work experience, especially when everyone's working from their living rooms.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add as well is, especially for young people where it's going to be more difficult to get that work experience, whether that's because of like their socioeconomic background, or maybe even if they've got a disability in particular, where you think, oh, it's going to be too difficult because of the adjustments that are needed. I led a training session once where there was a young guy who was 15 who was blind. And, you know, I was told in advance, so I was obviously coming to deliver a session. I was told in advance that I could make sure that my material was all accessible and all of these sorts of things. So I would say make the extra effort, because, you know, it's probably harder for the teachers and parents of kids from certain backgrounds with certain circumstances to make the work experience happen. So I would say, you know, really look for those in your circle and kind of be that bridge to work experience, or to an entrepreneur. You know, reach out to Calypso and say, have you got anybody in your circle that might be looking for somebody, you know, as long as, you know, they're not just going to be sitting on like a houseboat for a month, maybe like on a Zoom call with Calypso. Looking forward to part 2. Louisa has said, would love to talk to you more, Calypso, about development for Gen Z. I will link with you and set something up. Oh, that's really cool. We love making these connections happen, Louisa. So you can find Calypso on LinkedIn. Which social media platform are you on the most, Calypso? Are you LinkedIn or are you Instagram?
Well, I'm LinkedIn. I've actually just when I sold my business, I sold my old Instagram as well. So I'm starting again from scratch.
Oh
wow! I lost all my followers, so I'd love anyone to follow me. I am Calypso Rose.
Yeah, Calypso Rose on Instagram. But connect with her here on LinkedIn, especially if you want her to come in and talk to your Gen Zers, or, you know, come in, more importantly, come in and talk to your leaders about how they, you know, interact and reverse mentor and work with Gen Zers as well. Fantastic. Calypso, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've really loved this conversation at the end of a very long, intense week. This has been like food for the soul for me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been excellent.
No, thank you. And to everybody that has joined us. Sorry we're a little bit late. We had like some technical glitches, but thank you for sticking with us. And if you're watching this on the replay, thank you for taking 44 minutes out of your day to join us. Have a fantastic weekend. I hope it's not too cold here in the UK. And I'll see you all next time. Take care.